Coming in at number 5, the spooky clown statue. Roll the clip.
I just wanted to check on the little ones. How are they?
They're fine. Perfect angels. They went to bed, no problem.
Okay, good.
Listen,
For those of you who are interested, that comes from a 2008 horror anthology, Amusement. Doesn't that awaken a sort of primal fear deep within your stomach? We've probably all heard a version of this story somewhere. There's a new babysitter taking care of a couple kids while the parents are out of the town one dark and stormy night. She puts the kids to sleep and calls up the parents with a little update, make sure everything is to their liking. Teenage childminder says everything's alright, but she wants to know if it's alright to put a sheet over the clown statue as it's creeping her out. That last detail stuns the parents for a moment before they tell her to take the kids and go to the neighbors, and they'll call the police. This confuses the babysitter until the parents leave her with a terrifying detail. They don't have a clown statue. Later that night, the police will find a man in a clown costume sneaking through the neighborhood, knife in hand. That's no laughing matter. The fact that almost everyone claims to have heard a version of this is a testament to how truly upsetting it is. It also lends credence to the possibility that this may have actually happened at some point. It's a damn good thing she didn't throw a blanket over the clown, or who knows what would have happened. There are many different versions of this story. Sometimes a murder actually occurs, sometimes it's implied that the clown was interacting with the children without anyone knowing. Thankfully, the story almost always ends with the clown being caught, although real life can often be scarier than fiction, so I would still keep an eye out for any clown-shaped structures. Next up at number 4, the Great Stone Knight. Anyone who has played Dark Souls can attest to the amazing enemy design. Pretty much any one of the foes you fight in Lordran can take a spot on a top 5 scary list. There's a fear for each and every person, from snakes to ghouls to skeletons on wheels. But today, we're talking about statues. And these are some statues you do not want to underestimate. These Great Stone Knights will mess you up for real. Towering way up over a person of average stature, it's highly unlikely someone would ever survive an encounter with one of these aggressive statues without something like an Estus flask to call their own. Likely weighing hundreds of pounds and consisting of solid stone, they can pack a serious punch. If that wasn't enough already, remember they wield giant weapons made of stone too. Your bones would be dust before you even had a chance to run off. Oh, and if you do try to run, they'll cast Tranquil Walk of Peace, which is not as peaceful as its name implies. You'll be slowed down to a crawl, making it that much easier for these Goliaths to smash your skull into smithereens. Do yourself a favor and stay very far away from any statue you may see lying among the moss and lichens upon the forest floor. Unless, of course, you're the chosen undead. Get good. Coming in at number 3, we've got the Manchester Museum statue. A few years back, some security footage absolutely baffled and terrified staff at the Manchester Museum. An ancient Egyptian statue could be seen in its glass case slowly turning throughout the day. Watch it happen. Even when nobody was at the museum, it would continue on its rotation. The clear footage and transparent glass enclosure made sure that no one was mistaking it. The statue was moving on its own. Soon the news made it to the public and all sorts of folks weighed in. A popular theory is that it was an ancient curse. By moving on its own in plain sight, was it trying to communicate with the public? Trying to lure innocent people in? Dr. Campbell Price, curator of the museum, says that there were several supernatural explanations, but Egyptian stuff usually attracts that. It turns out that it was happening thanks to vibrations coming from the nearby road. The base of the structure was slightly convex, making it susceptible to the spinning effect. This made it so the statue in question could turn around and around, while others stayed stock still. Or maybe that's just what it wants you to think. Coming in at number 2, we've got the statue of Blewood Mansion. If you've ever been south of Albany, you might have heard about Blewood Mansion. These days it's been converted into offices for Bard College, but it was once the summer home of a Captain Andrew C. Zabriskie. A captain in the National Guard, Zabriskie made quite a fortune on real estate. He used his money to buy some land, previously named Blewood, and build a luxurious estate. Upon the completion of the building, he commissioned 4 statues, one for each of his daughters. These statues stood there for some time, unmoving, but one day, one suddenly disappeared. At first, no one had an explanation for the sudden demanifestation of the seemingly stoic statue. However, some dots were connected and a very disturbing reason was found. You see, the statue disappeared around the time of a very sad event. One of Zabriskie's daughters was staying at the family apartment in New York City. She met with a grisly fate that day when she fell from the window to her death. To this day, it's uncertain whether it was an accident or if foul play was involved. After her funeral, the statue disappeared, and it's been said that she now roams the grounds as the statue itself. And lastly, at number 1, the Crone. Let this one be a lesson to you all. If you find a creepy statue in the middle of nowhere, just leave it alone. You'll thank me later. So a few years back, Reddit user Wicked Hiker Their Way posted about finding a weird statue in a cave. He and his friend had been out hiking and decided to take a lesser known route. In doing so, they stumbled upon a wooden idol with nails in its eyes and a rope around its neck. This freaked the lads out because they had heard stories of devil worshippers frequenting the area. For reasons unknown to me, the friend took the statue home even though he was super freaked out by it. From there, weird stuff started happening. The statue would move from whatever spot they left it in and weird smells would appear out of nowhere. Something akin to dank pond water. Banging noises would prevent any sleep in the house, and one time there was even a knock at the door with nobody on the other side. The event that pushed the friend too far though was when he awoke to the sound of his dog freaking out. Going to check to see what was going on, he was surprised to see muddy footprints all over his house. All the doors were still locked and every window was shut, so it couldn't have been something coming in from outside. Seeing the idol, he approached it and heard raspy breathing noises. This was enough to send him packing and stay at his hiking buddy's place for a bit. After reaching out to the good folks at r/paranormal, the hiking duo was eventually connected with Greg Newkirk of the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal and Occult. After hearing that the guys had seen a full-bodied apparition of a soaking wet old woman crouching in the corner, he took the newly named Crone statue with him. The weirdness continued, even under new ownership, pulling Jesus off a crucifix, keeping up the phantom knocking, leaving wet footprints and everything, and at one point getting caught on a motion-activated camera. Now, say it with me. I won't take the creepy statue home with me.
When it comes to creepy stuff going bump in the night, it's always ideal to have footage of what you're talking about. Today we have the whole gambit: haunted house, haunted doll, kitchen chaos, a moving chair, and a place so creepy with moving things that it made professional ghost hunters upchuck. Question for you: what's the wildest moving object video you've ever seen? Let me know in the comments and let's get into it. Because it's me, and I love creepy dolls, we're kicking off today with the Agnes Porcelain doll that's been haunting its owners over in Scotland. Yvonne Hydes is an events manager for the Scottish Ghost Company, and she's organized paranormal investigations across the country. And during an event at Easter House's Proven Hall, she received an old-looking doll from one of the members. And she's like, okay, I'll take it home. Placed it in her spare room, and some stuff went down. Now, we do have video footage of the chaos that's been happening around the house. And the bizarre series of paranormal activity culminated in an investigation in a park where Yvonne is adamant she saw the creepy doll blink. She told a news outlet that one of the members' friends had brought the dolls to him after being on holiday, and they bought it from a charity shop, and that's not unusual for her to get like a doll with a weird backstory. A lot of the dolls she has are hand-me-downs, but they don't bother her. This doll though, the night she arrived, so Yvonne mentioned that her friend David, who works as a medium, absolutely hates the doll. When Yvonne brought the doll home, he was like, keep that thing in the garage, I don't want to be near it. And also, if having weird feelings wasn't proof enough, Yvonne's Cocker Spaniel took a dislike to the doll immediately. Started barking at the doll, shaking, which animals are very, very susceptible to weird spirits. One day, Yvonne came downstairs and saw one of her really heavy lamps sitting in the middle of the living room. Now, her son came in and she was like, did you do this? He's like, nope, no I didn't. And after that, more objects were being moved each morning and weird electrical things started to happen. So apparently Yvonne has this vacuum that's programmed to come out at 10:30 each night, and one morning she was turning off the lights and it just flew out and did its own thing. And she looked online, because it's supposed to be all techie and whatnot, and it wasn't registered as being active. So David was like, fine, I'll bring the doll home with me, see what I can figure out. Well, throughout the night he reported knocking and footsteps that just didn't make sense. So I already mentioned this a little bit. They took the doll to a park to figure something out. They did this live stream, I think it was on TikTok and Facebook. They tied a red light around Agnes's neck because they wanted the spirit to transfigure its face onto the doll. And during the process, the doll definitely blinked. Now, the team was like, well, do we bury it? Do we keep it? They decided to keep it. See what happens. So I don't think this is the last time we're going to hear about Agnes causing mischief. Ever balance on a chair so stupidly that when it eventually tips, you blame the chair instead of your own stupidness? Well, today we have video of a chair doing a whoopsie without any human involvement. How about that? The owners of Crone's, a bar and restaurant in Ventura County, California, were at a loss for words after a surveillance video from the restaurant showed a bar stool falling over on its own with no patrons or staff inside. This video was uploaded to social media and it went pretty viral. And there's actually two different clips. So one is from, like I said, after the establishment, already closed for the day, the bar stool does what it does. But then the other clip, which was captured during operating hours, you can see a chair lined up against a table and then it leans back and there's nobody near it. You can even see a patron go up to it and fiddle with it because it's like, yo, the chair. One of the co-owners, David Fold, said, like, for this to happen, it's creepy. It's weird. We've been here 27 years. Nothing like this has ever happened, and it wasn't like a Halloween stunt. The guy was just confused. Now, customers weren't frightened by it. They were like, okay, well, it's funny, it's interesting. One guy was like, you know what, I'm okay until it's my chair that moves, which, amen. Another customer, apparently a regular, Juan Munoz, said, so many people come here and go. Maybe it's haunted. Now, one of the co-owners was like, yeah, we do have some good spirits here. He referred to a lot of the photos that covered the walls of the restaurant from customers and employees who no longer hang out there. Now, he does have an idea of who might have been causing this chaos. Apparently there was two men who used to frequent the bar often, Ralph and Don. They were the first originals, and they passed away. So he's blaming it on them. Pardon me, I'm just gonna go fold down my office chair. No reason. Time to travel over to the UK, where we meet another doll said to be an equivalent to Annabelle. The spooky Grace doll is kept in a locked box in one of the bedrooms at Ye Old King's Head pub in Chester, which is said to be the most haunted hotel in Chester. The pub is renowned for stories of spooky goings-on over the years, with paranormal enthusiasts from all over the world now coming to the city to visit the venue. The box containing the eerie doll is under 24/7 surveillance and chained down, but not to keep the doll in, according to the hotel's paranormal investigator, Danny Moss. He said instead it was to keep people from opening the box. He explained that some visitors had felt compelled to open it, as though something was willing them to do it. The hotel plays host to numerous keen ghost hunters, eager to see the array of creepy artifacts and reported paranormal activity at the venue. The Grace doll is said to be so haunted that only seasoned paranormal investigators can enter the room in which it resides, which is so smart. Danny explained that he's been investigating the item for the last 5 years, and he's seen it produce some of the best evidence in the paranormal field. But to now capture it moving on camera is a special moment. I agree with this. There will always be skepticism when it comes to the paranormal, and rightly so. But when you capture something like this, people have to come to terms with the possibility that there really are things out there that we can't understand. The way the item moves defies all laws of gravity, and that's what makes the footage so compelling. It's important to note that the room is locked and the public do not have access upstairs during the day. Danny said it was moved to room 8 at the hotel, also known as My Haunted Hotel, in January of last year from its previous home at the Tatton Old Hall in Cheshire. The doll made national headlines in 2019 when it was said to have told Danny it wanted to burn his eyes. Absolutely not. No thank you. Time to move on from stuffed nightmares and instead talk about a porcelain beauty. Okay, not me. Lee Roberts and Paul Stevenson were doing a practice live broadcast from the notorious poltergeist hotspot ahead of their scheduled Halloween visit. However, while filming themselves creep around the infamous 30 East Drive in Pontefract, West Yorkshire, they claim a doll in one of the bedrooms was used by a poltergeist or demonic force to scare them. The terrifying footage shows a porcelain doll named Victoria in her box with the lid on when they first go into the bedroom. Nice and chill, just hanging out. However, when they return moments later, the doll has moved and the lid is completely off and has been bent out of shape, leaving the pair then checking the house for an intruder in panic. They mention that there's definitely a dark presence, and sadly, it could be a demonic one. The house was the site of one of Britain's most notorious alleged hauntings when the Pritchard family was subjected to years of torment by the so-called Black Monk of Pontefract. Mr. Roberts believes the Black Monk is a dark spirit, possibly demonic, who used Victoria to scare the ghost hunting duo into not returning on Halloween. The doll was apparently originally found in the attic of the house, but here's the kicker, nobody knows where she came from or who she belonged to. The box actually has a warning on it saying that if you wish to look at Victoria, you should not take her out of the box and always cover her back up. And once again, I say, those who ignore history are doomed to repeat it. If something has a warning on it, leave it alone. The footage that we have shows the duo enter the bedroom and film the position that Victoria is lying in, with the lid to the box covering her face. After leaving the room, Mr. Roberts claims that they both saw the shape of a figure move across the hallway with wavy black hair, just like the doll, followed by a loud bang, so they went back into the room to investigate. The footage shows Mr. Stevenson then claim he heard someone call out Lee, so the duo panics and begins rushing downstairs in fear to check the doors are, locked. Mr. Roberts mentioned that they didn't know what was real and what wasn't. If someone had been in there toying with them, then that's even scarier than a ghost. It was a really frightening 90 minutes, and as they left, the door swung open, but wouldn't do it again when they tried. They definitely think it was some sort of presence doing it. They were just about to leave, so they think it was something there warning them to say, don't go back. I hope they listened. So when it comes to who or what is most likely to be perceptive of ghosties in the home, animals, the very young, and true believers tend to bear the brunt of the responsibilities. Well, this is a case where a kitty sadly got caught on camera while experiencing the fright of their lives. Kathy Gallagher said that since moving into her home back in August of 2018, she had experienced a series of scary supernatural incidents incidents, including objects moving on their own and shadow figures appearing in the darkness. But she was stunned when a CCTV camera she had set up in her basement captured a black mass emerging from her mother's old doll from the 1950s, which she believes could be a ghost. Footage captured shows her black cat Salem visibly distressed and staring intently at her dolls before what appears to be a black mist appearing from one of them and drifting in the cat's direction before sending the fearful feline scarpering. Although the call center operator has become used to the paranormal scaring the life out of her in her own home, she has since avoided venturing down to the basement unaccompanied at all costs. The footage is so freaky that some suggested that the family had digitally edited the clip, but Kathy says that they had to work really hard to debunk anything they capture on camera, and she's adamant, if I put it on the internet, it's real. So after the mom of one discovered her home was a hive for paranormal activity, she started capturing videos, and her daughter convinced her to set up a TikTok account to share them, which I think has amassed more than 600,000 followers and likes. Kathy mentioned that her TikTok followers asked to put the camera in with the dolls overnight in the basement, since that's where most of the activity is. The cat was down there, and also her daughter's bedroom was down there, and she said the cat ran to her door. She heard him outside and let him in, and he was just clearly afraid of something. That's when she told her mom, hey, you might want to check those cameras because the cat's crazy scared. So the next day, they checked the cameras, and what she saw was her cat clearly staring at these dolls, frightened to something, and then all of a sudden, the black mass, which she thinks could be a ghost. She describes Salem, which is the cat, as being her protector. The cat goes everywhere with her, so if she does have to go downstairs and she's nervous, he follows her, and it's uncommon for him to show signs of being afraid like that.
Number 5 on this list is the dead mother. There are so many things that we could have called this painting, but the artist decided to go with dead mother. Already off to a bad start if you ask me. The Paranormal periodical says it's a pretty depressing picture. We see a young child standing next to her dead mother who lies on her deathbed. This traumatic piece of art is based on an even sadder story. Edvard Munch, the Norwegian artist behind the image, experienced the same circumstances shown in the painting at 5 years old when his mother died of TB. His works were always overshadowed by his childhood bereavement and morbid fear of inheriting a mental condition from his family, but it was this one that picked up an alleged curse. Those who view this image have reported feeling uncomfortable as if the eyes of the young girl are following you, and heard the bed sheets even rustling in the painting. Munch isn't just known for this haunted painting, however. He's also the brains behind The Scream, one of the most famous pieces of artwork, which is haunting on a different level. This eyeball movement has been seen from tons of people before, and apparently has been caught on camera. Now, we don't have access to that footage, but from my understanding, it's not some optical illusion. Like the Mona Lisa is often talked about as doing this, and it's a bit of an optical illusion. But this painting very clearly has moved, and its eyeballs are in a different place. Also, even if this was an optical illusion, there's no way to create the auditory effect of rustling sheets without someone actually moving. This painting is messed up, and some paranormal expert needs to look into it fast. Number 4 on this list is Bernardo de Galves. We have another painting here whose eyes follow you, but there's also a bit of a twist involved. The Paranormal periodical says this painting is housed in one of Texas's most haunted hotels, despite having its own terrifying reputation. The thing is, the supernatural goings on in this hotel can be traced back to the day the painting was first hung at the end of the downstairs hallway. This is a portrait of the Spanish military officer the hotel was named after, Bernardo de Galves. The guests immediately began to feel the eyes follow them as they walked across the hall and to their rooms. They also felt cold spots or a sense of uneasiness if they stood too close to it. The most chilling part of this story, however, is that no one is able to take a picture of the painting without it being blurred. To ask for a clear image, you must first ask for permission from Bernardo. So from my understanding, this has been caught on camera, but there's no way to know if what people are suggesting is real or not because the image is blurred and we can't see anything, making it rather difficult to know anything at all in relation to this painting. What is it about this painting? Why is it the way that it is? Apparently, just having this moving haunted painting in the hotel has made it so that this hotel is super duper haunted now. But how is that possible? What could have possibly caused this painting to get this far gone where it blurs cameras and follows people around? We may never know why this painting is as scary as it is.
Coming in at number 5, we've got Snow White's statue blinking. In a less affluent neighborhood in Mexico, there's a park, and in that park sit 8 statues. One for each of the famous fairy tale dwarves and their fearless feminine leader, Snow White. Now, rumor has it that there was something odd about these figures, but nobody could really explain why. So a camera person decided to take it upon themselves to enter the park at night and tape the band of merry miscreants. The footage reveals exactly why people were so creeped out by the statues. They're dirty, decrepit, and really creepy just to begin with. We are well into the uncanny valley with these characters. They don't look like people or Disney-style cartoons, they just look like creepy, filthy lawn gnomes. And that's not even looking at Snow White with her big bug eyes wide open staring into your soul. Michelangelo's, these are not. So once the camera person gets their lens on the apple-eating songstress, they focus in on her. They've noticed something odd that captures their attention more than any of the dwarves. It lingers on her creepy face and then bam! She blinked. Her statue eyelids came down over her plaster eyes and returned to their point of origin. Run for your lives. And so the camera person does. They hoof it out of there like they just saw a librarian on returns day. Check it out. Later, the footage was aired in a local news program, and the journalists behind the show decided to visit the park themselves. They interviewed a local man who claims that some 20-odd years ago, the park was a cemetery. Apparently, plenty of folks came to retrieve their deceased family members, but some bodies remained. This little tidbit gives life to the possibility that the area could be haunted by the ghost of a forgotten person buried beneath the earth. But what could the blinking mean? Is it a cry for help? Or someone flexing their horror movie editing muscles before going to the press with it? Hard to say. Coming in at number 4, we got Crack the Whip. Children are arguably the scariest iteration of humanity. Senseless, remorseless, vicious people. So turn some kids into a group of statues at a cemetery and you've got a recipe for some hauntings. At the Sunset Hills Cemetery in Flint, there's a group of statues known as Crack the Whip. 8 children playing the popular childhood game where you hold hands in a line and try to whip your friends off the end. They're there cast in bronze. At the end of the proverbial whip is a little girl who's missing a shoe. The little bronzed sandal can be found a few feet back, nestled in the grass. Legend has it that anyone who tries to put the shoe on and has it fit will experience something terrible, and some suggest it might even be deadly. A scary urban legend on its own, sure, but what's a legend without an apparently true story to add to it? It's been said that the statue was donated by the grandfather of a little girl who unfortunately lost her life playing that very game. Her and 7 friends were whipping around and she lost her grip, stumbling into oncoming traffic. The drivers on the road couldn't react fast enough and she was struck by a car and killed. Ever since then, people have heard moans coming from around the statues, along with the giggles and rustling of grass. Could it be that when your foot fits in the girl's shoe, she returns for it? Maybe she invites the lucky Cinderella to play a quick game with her. Maybe that game turns fatal. These kids aren't the only statues in the cemetery either. Visitors often mistake the carvings and busts for real people, and for whatever reason, these kids are the most common perpetrators. Coming in at number 3, fleshy medical statues.
Yes, excuse me? I think... Yep.
If you weren't convinced by the name of these guys, just take a look. Did you see the exposed muscles on that thing? Did it just move? Aren't medical dummies supposed to stay still for examination? Imagine exploring an abandoned hospital and running into one of these. I might just jump out of my skin. If you didn't know, these folks come from the indie horror game Statues. Creative title, right? In the game, you must stay one step ahead of, you guessed it, moving statues. They can only move when you aren't observing them, kind of like how some classic horror villains who seem to move at light speed when off camera. There's also a blinking limiting mechanic to ensure that you don't just stare down these creepy crags of rock until the end of time. The game actually seems to take inspiration from a very famous statuesque monster from Britain, but we'll get to that later. In the game, you have to complete all sorts of objectives while avoiding these statues at all costs. If you fall behind or take too long before looking at one, only bad things can happen. This can lead to some very intense moments in which it is quite difficult to stay one step ahead. One wrong move can lead to getting caught, and you do not want to get caught. Next up at number 2, gargoyles. From the ramparts of the Notre Dame all the way to the now streaming 90s cartoon, these stone creatures have captured the imagination of people for a very long time. If you've ever seen one adorning an ancient building, you'll understand why. Grimacing, snarling rock beasts baring their teeth at you. Sheesh, enough to turn me to stone. Gargoyles were originally an architectural element meant to divert water from the rooftops of old buildings. I know, not so scary when you consider the fact that they're just fancy water spouts. The gargoyles would prevent the roof from being damaged in the event of heavy rain or similar weather events. Water flows through a trough cut into the back and pours out their open mouth. Imagine not knowing this and looking up to a monster vomiting water on your head. That's probably where a lot of the stories of gargoyles coming to life originated. Plus, longer gargoyles meant better drainage so the more effective ones would be more visible. Scarier too. Of the many legends surrounding gargoyles, the most prolific involve the sprouting of bat-like wings and a hunger for flesh, sometimes human. There's one in particular known as the Sturga, or sometimes the Strix, that sits atop Notre Dame, watching carefully, waiting to descend upon some unlucky Parisian. It resembles a bat or an owl with a large head, voracious beak, wings, and horns. The artist Charles Mayron wrote that this monster does indeed exist and is no figment of the imagination. You better watch out. These iconic monsters have inspired and appeared in many forms of media, always as beasts of supernatural strength, speed, and power. Simon Belmont and his relatives have fought them off in the Castlevania series. Treasure hunters have been eaten alive in the movie Rise of the Gargoyles, and they even fight crime in New York City in the animated series Gargoyles. All I'm saying is that there is a possibility that these beastly sculptures do actually come awake at night and stalk the darkness. Keep your eyes on the skies. And finally, at number 1, weeping angels. Don't blink. Keep your eye drops ready. Be prepared to jump into the nearest telephone booth or police box. Now, I've already referenced these creatures while discussing the statue's video game, and it's pretty obvious where that took its inspiration from. Weeping angels. First appearing in the Doctor Who episode titled Blink, these statues have made their way into the hallowed halls of horror legend. They're one of the most popular and terrifying Doctor Who monsters. Possessing a natural and unique defense mechanisms, the angels are quantum locked. This means that they can only move when no other living creature, including their own kind, is looking at them. As soon as they're observed, they instantly turn to stone and cannot be killed. Imagine running from one of these. No blinking, no turning away. Every time you break line of sight, they creep closer and closer at terrifying speeds. They have the ability to send others into the past to a point before their birth, which allows the angels to feed on the potential life energy of what would have been the rest of their victims' lives. It's paradoxical and petrifying. They don't usually kill their victims because they want to feast on that potential. I wonder if someone could ever figure it out Groundhog Day style, or maybe they're just doomed to live life over and over, meeting the angels at the end of each identical run. These time-traveling terrors tend to appear as humanoid angel statues with unremarkable features. That is, until they get close. If within feeding range, they open their mouths wide and bare their vampiric fangs. It's implied that any statue you've ever seen could be a weeping angel in disguise. As quantum beings, they are extremely difficult to kill. This is thanks to their extreme physical strength and the fact that the statues are pretty much impossible to destroy. Plus, who would want to get that close to one of these anyways? The only way to stop a weeping angel is to keep them under 100% constant surveillance. And the only reliable way to do this is to have two of them look directly at each other. If that happens, they will be stuck until somebody moves one out of the sight of the other. Hopefully nobody's stupid enough to do that. Weeping angels combat this possibility by moving with their hands over their eyes, giving them the appearance of crying, thus weeping angels. So if you ever see a statue that looks a little too sad, get the hell out of there.
When it comes to tales about creepy things, any story about dolls will always pique my interest. Heck, originally the powers that be just wanted me to talk about creepy things found on camera today, but I convinced them otherwise, so hopefully the algorithm doesn't let me down with finding like-minded people. Let's just jump into it together. I'm too excited. I think I'm gonna start off today with a doozy of a coincidence that is begging for attention. So a husband and wife team of paranormal investigators claim their Raggedy Ann doll is possessed after CCTV footage showed it moving out of its display cabinet. Lee and Lindsay Steer, aged 37 and 52 respectively, who run the Museum of Haunted Objects from their home in Rotherham, South Yorkshire, said they have caught the doll on, CCTV footage flipping over their Ouija board table in the past. You're telling me that a large Raggedy Ann doll is causing problems with the Ouija board? Well then, I'm getting deja vu. Anybody else? They believe the doll is the cause of them nearly being in a car crash and having mysterious illnesses, which once led Lindsay being in hospital for a week, with doctors having no idea what caused it. So in the museum, Lindsay has also felt something grab her neck tightly and has seen things fly across the room with no logical explanation, which the full-time investigators believe could be because of their doll. Their doll is an identical copy of the cursed Annabelle doll, and they think it might be a conduit for a similar spiritual energy source. The doll was made in, well, the same factory, and since it looks exactly the same as Annabelle, which many paranormal believers think is possessed, the coincidences are there. Now, this specific doll was given to Lee and Lindsay in October of 2019, and on the 2-year anniversary of the couple owning the doll struck again. This is where the heavy Ouija table was hurled over, which was caught on footage, and Lee explained that the doll was sitting on a chair at the table. It's very solid and it's got a metal leg holding it up, so there's no way it would have just fallen over or collapsed. Somebody had put a little speaker on the table, walked away, and the next minute the table just collapsed. There's no logical explanation as to why that should have happened, and it was just the way this doll was staring straight at it. So after this, they decided to put their Raggedy Ann doll in a glass cupboard on a secure hook to avoid anything dangerous happening again. But they didn't put anything protective around it. No holy water, no tarot cards, no nothing. So on Halloween night, 2022 at about 3 a.m., the footage showed this Raggedy Ann stepping out of the display cabinet legs first. And that's the footage we have today. Lindsay explained she's in a glass cabinet. The door is really stiff, so you'd have to really pull it open. She shouldn't have fallen legs first because, well, her head's heavier than her legs. It looks as though in the footage that she's sort of twisting her legs to come out first, stepping out, which isn't a natural way for a doll to fall. It's very, very bizarre. Lindsay has continued to explain that they have some cat balls which basically flash if somebody touches them, and all of a sudden they just went flying down the steps, which is just so bizarre. In the last 2 weeks after the Raggedy Ann stepping out of the cupboard, the museum was getting more and more dangerous and things were getting more physical. Now, the paranormal investigators were used to dealing with that sort of thing, but it was getting more intense and it was building up energy, big time. When Lindsay was feeling a reel one day, something, once again, grabbed the back of her neck out of nowhere and squeezed it so tightly that it wasn't painful, but it made her not want to be in that room, and made her think something major's gonna happen, but apparently she's not scaring them for now. So yeah, the couple are keeping the doll in the museum for now, but they say if things start getting violent, they're gonna consider getting help from a demonologist. Yeah, I'm watching history repeat itself. Anybody else? If things start getting violent, they're already violent. For the love of everything, bring in a demonologist, get rid of the Ouija board, douse the place in holy water. Protect yourselves, you fools. Next up is a little variant on today's list, a demented puppet. Paranormal investigator Jane Harris filmed the puppet every night for 3 months using a timed night vision camera. The 32-year-old from Stourbridge, West Mids, was watching the puppet after its previous owner claimed it tried to, hand necklace him to death. The chilling footage shows the puppet's cross slowly moving upright and then crashing into a glass pane of the sealed box. Since receiving the puppet, it has been kept inside a container blessed by holy water and for extra safety and investigation accuracy. Which, good! Jane, who investigates haunted dolls for her company, HG Paranormal, said the cabinet has no doors, so you would have to physically lift all 4 sides and the base off to move it. For them, there was no point in faking evidence. It's only tricking yourself. This footage was real. The ultimate goal was to find out as much as they could about the spirit and then to try to understand why it's still there. Jane had been investigating spiritual attachments to haunted puppets for 17 years after training as a psychologist. She mentioned that the video evidence is real and more difficult for her to disprove than people believing they have had paranormal experiences from other haunted dolls. Now, the puppet's former owner, John, inherited the 1960s toy after his father's death and claims to have experienced minor haunting experiences. But they all built up to one evening where he believes the spirit attached to the puppet was, well, getting the life out of him. He mentioned that he had cleared out all of his dad's belongings apart from the puppet, which he left on the drawer by his bed for some reason, and that night he just couldn't sleep. He was wide awake in bed and thought he saw a shadow move from one side of the window to the other and was worried something was trying to scare him. But then without warning, his throat was very, very tight, and he's never had anybody's hands around his throat before, so it was really scary. And while he was struggling to breathe, he tried to wake his wife, but she wasn't waking up. When she did, he remembered looking straight at the puppet sitting on the drawers near the bed and realizing that was the source of the problem. John said the haunting experience began 2 weeks after inheriting the puppet, which he reluctantly kept because, well, it was one of his father's favorite possessions. He also started to have really bad headaches and feel dizzy, which at first he didn't really think could be because of the puppet, just, it happened. But once Jane took the doll away, both John and his wife felt a lot better. That night he slept properly for the first time in months. No more headaches, no more footsteps. Everything had stopped, and that's when he realized, damn, it was the puppet. He's mentioned that the fact that there's video evidence now kind of makes him uncomfortable. He's not gonna watch it. He doesn't need any more proof. He lived with that thing for months and it did more than enough to convince him. That about says it all. In my experience, when paranormal experts are sounding the alarm about what goes on in their home, it's time to listen and worry. So there's this couple that claim they've been forced to flee not 1, not 2, but 3 houses to escape an aggressive spirit haunting them after the husband had a near-death experience. And we've got the footage that shows pens and TVs moving on their own. Nick Summers believes an entity has latched onto him after his heart stopped 3 times following a work accident, leaving his wife Kinsey so scared that she had to sleep in hotels. He thinks he formed a connection with the afterlife because of the near-death experience and suspects that the spirit latched onto him while investigating an abandoned hospital. So I think this was all reported while they were living in house 2 out of 3, and that's when things got really crazy. Footage from a camera set up to capture the ordeal showed a previously motionless pen dramatically rolling across a coffee table while the couple's just, like watching TV. Another clip shows a spoon spinning around in a coffee cup while Nick is sitting on the sofa with his dog, and a third captures the couple's TV falling from the wall without explanation. Nick has also described seeing orbs in the living room. He claims he and his wife were driven out of one home after Nick saw the ghost of a girl in the living room. Like one morning, he just woke up and he felt like something was there. Told his wife, okay, stay in bed, and he went into the living room and saw this female spirit. And it was the most detailed, scary experience of his life. She looked younger, her outline was vibrating, and there was like a light blue around her. She was also wearing like old floral print PJs, just like a regular old nightie. She was looking at the window, and then all of a sudden she just evaporated. Well, Nick screamed to Kinsey, "I just saw a ghost in the house!" So he tried to make contact. He asked the name, they said it was Dusty. He asked "Do you want us to stay in the house?" And the spirit started laughing. And the next day the ceiling caved in. And not a little ooh, it was an 8-foot circle. Apparently Nick managed to make contact using a spirit box, which I've heard a lot of people using them. They're kind of like an electronic Ouija board, which, my feelings on that, but whatever, I digress. So afterwards, this is when Nick and Kinsey moved to a new house 3 miles away, and then the activity got cranked up. Nick heard his voice being yelled all the time. Also, he had to change 14 to 20 light bulbs a month because they would just pop all the time. Now back to the first house, the intensity got so bad that the sink would turn on, Nick was getting hit with flying bottle caps, he would go in the kitchen and all the cupboards would be open like a horror movie. I think the creepiest thing that ever happened was that they saw a shadow the size of a fridge come out of their room, down the hall, stop in front of them, and go up into the ceiling. Could this be a modern day Donovan case situation? Because for me, the evidence points to yes. A spooked man believes his flat was haunted after he filmed objects appearing to move by themselves. The bizarre video, which was captured at the man's home in Fayetteville, North Carolina, in the US, shows a number of items falling off of the kitchen counter. This video was originally posted to Reddit, and a lot of users were convinced that the cup had a handle and it was moved by a piece of string. And I was too until I saw all the things moving. Because then the papers fluttered and I was like, okay, this is a little fan. But then the toaster went flying and I was like, okay, nope, this is real. The unnamed filmmaker who posted the video said, I came home to find a few things out of place, decided to review the footage because he was worried about a break-in. And it scared the absolute HE double hockey sticks out of him while watching it. He was like, I was probably being paranoid, but I felt like I could feel somebody or something looking at him. And he was seriously considering breaking his lease to move. So I checked the comments on the original Reddit post, and the man claimed a few things happened also in the bathroom and then in the living room, but nothing in the bedroom. It was primarily just in the kitchen. And he had no clue why. Apparently at the time he had lived there close to a year, and all of the chaos started happening about 2 months prior to posting. Now, all of this as a whole was about 7 years ago, and sadly the original post was deleted, so I don't have an update. And finally, let's talk about a spooky house where a group of ghost fanatics stayed the night, and this place was so haunted that it made some of them physically sick. This creepy home, dubbed the Hostel by paranormal experts, is notorious for its spooky aura, with stories of moving chairs, objects flying through the air, and candles blowing out. The 7-bedroom home in Hull, East Yorkshire, has even had ghostly faces appearing at its windows, leading to police break-ins. Becky Cook, one of the people brave enough to step inside, said spooky forces began to take hold as soon as the ghost hunting group passed through the front door. Things moved. 3 people upchucked. There was this amazing feeling of sickness that came over everybody. Doors opened on their own. One man even had a ball thrown at him. Ooh. Sue Thompson, another ghost hunter brave enough to step over the threshold, said it was a very exciting night. We got an amazing response from the table tipping, the seance, and the Ouija board. We have very different definitions of exciting. She's like, you always got the sense that something was standing behind you, and the experiments we carried out proved to me something was there. Clairvoyant Jillian Lockwood was another member of the group that entered the crazy place and also witnessed flying objects and bone-chilling sensations. She said we had one person get struck on the head with a ball and a number of names brought through the spirit box. She felt her hair being touched. She felt feelings of sickness and emotions. It was a fantastic night. Once again, we have different definitions of fantastic. She mentioned that they discovered the evil spirit of a man upstairs and then a woman and 3 descendants below. They got the name of Walter, dated from around 1840, who indicated he died after going the way of the rope necklace. Now, Andy Yates, who actually owns this haunted property, said he's seen a lot of stuff going on over the years. Apparently he tried to rent the house out a couple of times, but the longest anybody has lasted? 4 days. Some people couldn't even return after measuring the house up for furniture.
Number 3 on this list is the stagecraft of the Hanging Man. This one is super weird and will make you want to double check all your photographs. The Paranormal periodical says a painter was at a gallery in 1994 where she discovered a unique photograph taken by James Kidd. It was meant to simply be a picture of an old stagecoach in a stagecoach stop in Arizona, but when he developed the photo, he discovered what seemed to be a headless man. Yeah, this was a ghost. Even Kodak investigated it and claimed the photo had not been doctored. The painter was drawn to it and asked if she could do an oil painting of the image. However, halfway through the painting, she began to feel, well, odd. It was at this point that the painting started doing some weird things. Objects in it would randomly move, and things even in the office space where the painting was being made started acting up. The roof started leaking when it really shouldn't have at all. Things started moving around the room without warning. Just weird stuff, and all while the painting itself was moving around. One day the headless man would be in one spot, and the next time he would be in another one entirely. Apparently this is caught on the security footage from this building, but that's not something that we can easily access. I don't really understand why they kept painting this damn thing after it started doing what it was doing, because now we just have this headless dude from a painting terrorizing people in this office, as if the monotony of a 9 to 5 wasn't bad enough. Number 2 on this list is love letters. Now, there are actually a few love letters paintings, and they're both haunted, believe it or not. We're going to be specifically focusing in on the latter painting though, one that's been called Love Letters Replica. The Paranormal periodical says most haunted or cursed paintings have one thing in common: they're freaky. This replica of a Richard King work, on the other hand, would probably be credited as pretty. Unfortunately, this piece of art lays claim to a rather more tragic tale. The origins of this painting is unknown, and unlike other pictures, it adopted its paranormal connotations after it was painted. Legend has it the daughter of a US Senator, Samantha Houston, chased her ball down the grand stairs of the Driscoll Hotel and died in 1887. The picture was supposedly hung up in her memory as it mirrored her features and her kind demeanor. But it wasn't soon after it made its debut in the hotel that guests and staff began to report feeling dizzy or nauseous around the painting. But some also said the painting had tried to communicate with them. The girl's face might change expression, or she might be holding a ball instead of a bouquet of flowers. Those who have owned other replicas or prints of the painting also reported loved ones having strokes, a common link between those who had had the misfortune of bringing it into their homes. Yeah, so people literally have had this painting try to communicate with them before. That's really not what a painting should be doing, folks. I like my paintings completely still, without movement, and without the ability to mess with my freaking brain. Clearly something about paint put into this pattern to create this image just makes something haunted and creepy happen. Considering this is the replica of the original and the original is also haunted, maybe we should just stop painting pictures that look like this. And number 1 on this list is the Rain Woman. Not only does this painting move, but the woman in the painting will follow you anywhere you go. The Paranormal periodical says it's one of the most peculiar and poignant paintings to feature, but the paranormal activity actually started when the painter first set up the canvas. Svetlana Telets, the artist behind the picture, claimed she painted it in less than 5 hours. Or did she? The Ukrainian painter alleges her hand was guided throughout the entire process and that she felt she was channeling a spirit that was looking over her. It's currently hung in a salon in Kiev and is often noted as exhibiting telltale signs of terrifying supernatural phenomena. The expression changes and angry emotions can often be seen glinting in her eyes. Those that made the mistake of buying it, a clear mistake as it frequently changed hands, often claimed they began to see the woman in the paintings everywhere. It gave people that looked at it or were in the same room as it headaches, and a shadow began to wander the homes of those who owned it. According to paranormal experts, Telets might have been channeling surrealist automatism from which one lets the unconscious mind have control over their art. This is effectively spirit writing with a paintbrush and seems to have trapped an entity in the image. So it's no wonder this thing moves, guys. It's literally alive. There's a spirit trapped inside this painting and it's doing whatever the heck it wants. I don't know how this happened or what spirit this is, but clearly it doesn't want to go to the afterlife just yet and had to use this painting as its vessel.